Good evening. Today is Wednesday, February 14th. It is 5:33. I'd like to call the East Lyme Board of Finance regular meeting to order. With that, I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. All rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is delegations, where members of the community can speak to any item that's on our agenda tonight. Is anyone looking to speak to? Nope. Okay. Move on to approval of minutes of the regular meeting, January 10th. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes that were circulated?
I'll move to approve the regular meeting minutes for January 10th, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, corrections, deletions, additions? If not, do I have all those in favor of approving the minutes of the regular meeting of January 10th, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next on our agenda is our reports. Our first selectman, Mr. Cunningham.
Yes, good evening. Should I go to the podium?
Sure.
Yeah. I'll do it right from here then. Great, thank you. So first on my list tonight, and I know we have a slide for a few things, I believe, but tomorrow I'm very hopeful that we will close on the Hathaway Farms parcel, which also includes property down near Ravenwoods, Giant Snake Beach area, Giant Snake Heights to Brainerd Road, and then up in the Oswegatchie Hills. There's several parcels there that are involved. So we've got a few details we're still trying to iron out. I'm hoping by 2 o'clock tomorrow I'll be able to say that we've closed. One of the biggest things that I'm concerned about, there was a $400,000 grant from the state of Connecticut that is supposed to come to the East Lyme, assigned to us from the East Lyme Land Trust, and want to make sure that isn't in jeopardy and that we will in fact receive that grant. So I've been in contact with DEEP up in Hartford. Unfortunately, our contact person went on vacation and had a snow day, so we got, it kind of threw a wrench in the works, but I think we may have a way around it, but if we get the proper assurances, then hopefully we'll be able to close. And that's a very important, those three parcels are very important to have in the name of the town of East Lyme. So wish me luck tomorrow. The other thing that we've talked about, and I mentioned it before, was the establishment of the Coastal Resiliency Fund in the budget that we will be presenting to you. We have a line item for that, and I think it's a modest amount starting off, I think, what, 25,000? 25,000, but that's a start. And we will, of course, every year try to contribute to that, and as you well know, that helps us in borrowing money. It enhances our posture in the bond market. So we're trying to get that done. In our capital plan, we've pushed, to the disappointment of some, I'm sure, we've pushed off some of the bigger projects that were heading our way, and maybe delaying that a year or two. We really have to tighten up. This is, it's been a couple of tough years with COVID and increasing costs. So we're really trying to focus, at least my focus, and with the help of Kevin, on repairing what we have. I think we talked before about, we have roofs that need to be repaired, and we need other things, fields that have to be updated and fixed. Not the least of which is, we have historical properties that I think have been largely ignored over other administrations and in past years, and that was what got cast to the side. And In the whole scheme of things, it's not a lot of money, $20,000 in the whole scheme of what we're trying to do to put a roof on a barn so the whole barn doesn't fall down and get ruined. That's really important. If we're going to have these historic properties, and we're going to say, you know what, we think these are important and the town should own them, then we have to buck up and spend a little bit of money to preserve them. So we're trying to work through the budget in a way that in the capital plan try to have money set aside. So that one thing was a roof of the barn for the Samuel Smith property, and then the Brookside Farms. For a long time there's been a problem with the paint. There's apparently some roof issues. So the smart thing to do, and what we're going to do, is get a study just to prioritize what needs to be done in what sequence to preserve that property from any further deterioration or damage, and spend what we have to spend in the short term to keep it safe. Maybe if the roof has to be patched, we can't do a whole new roof this year, at least get things so they're secure, and then really have a plan to get it straightened out. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at, and those are my concerns. That's pretty much it for me tonight.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
No, sounds like a good plan.
Can I make one comment for you, Dan?
Yes, please.
So if anyone watching at home, the board members, and the public, all of the first selectmen's budgets are on the finance department website. So if you go to eltownhall.com, find the finance page, everything's uploaded. So all the department heads' requests and the first selectmen's proposed budget is up there.
Great, thank you. And just for the public as well, the next part of the process will be there once the Board of Selectmen present it to the Board of Finance, which will be at the March meeting, and then the Board of Finance will begin our review of the budget, along with inviting different department heads in to get down into the nitty-gritty of each of them, and then after that it will go to a public hearing and then to the town meeting on the second Monday in May, where it gets presented May 13th. So this is the budget as it stands right now. We know that there will be updates to it as, for instance, the Board of Ed, we know there will be some movement with the cost of their insurance because new information has come out since that. So there will be tweaking along the way between now and May, but this is where we are in the process right now. Thank you, Dan. And now over to Kevin Gervais, our Director of Finance.
All right, we've got quite a few things here in the presentation, so we'll just dive in here. So I know it's an agenda item, so I'll talk about the assessor's grand list at some point tonight. We can talk about that. Tax collection update. There's a handout in front of everybody that shows the current taxes collected just under 97%. Comparatively speaking to last year, very similar. Last year, I had the town tax collectors run the numbers comparatively. Last year we were 96.7% collected. This year we are 96.86% collected, so it's 0.16 more of a percent. So we're on target there. I know there was some questions in the past about the private duty billing with regards to the pension. That item has not been fully resolved, but I'll give you a status update and I'll show you how a deposit is broken down for a private duty billing, and then I'll follow up next month with our actuary's opinion on what would be an appropriate percentage to charge for the pension contribution. The finance department to-do list we always talk about, budget versus actual. We were working on that. The audit updates, and then I think there's something else in here I just didn't put on this front page, but we'll get to that. Speaking of tax collections, the tax sale is now scheduled for April 23rd at 10 a.m. There are 17 properties listed. Last time I reported, there was 23. So 6 properties have paid roughly $80,000 in back taxes. The number was over $317,000 when we started. Now it's under $250,000. While that is good for this current year budget, next year, if you remember a couple slides back, one of the reductions in revenues was the prior year revenue tax collections. Since we are, we're going out and being more robust in collecting prior years, next year is going to be less to collect. So that's just something to keep at the top of our minds as to why some of the numbers have changed, year over year in the budget. If you have any questions, there's a booklet right outside the tax collector's office. If anyone wants to see the list of the 17 properties with the addresses and everything, it's located right outside the tax collector's office. If you have any questions, please reach out to Chris Dixon. We've all heard Munis every month. Munis is still tracking to be on target for July 1, 2024. Implementation of APAR budgeting, everything except for payroll and utilities. Payroll will go live January 1, 2025. The idea being only one W-2 to go out the door, so that'll be nice and easy. And then July 1, 2025, we will implement utility billing for water and sewer on Munis. The RFP with banking, I've said that's forthcoming for a while now, but that's really taken a back seat to so many other pressing issues coming out of the finance office. We have Positive Pay on all our bank accounts. The other day we had a potential fraud case. Positive Pay caught it. We alerted police. So the systems they're doing what they're supposed to do now, right? So we caught that. I think it was about a $4,000 check that someone tried cashing. So we were able to catch that. And same thing with exploring new software. We don't have time to explore new software at the moment, but eventually when the finance department gets caught up to speed, I would like to start looking at these. And I guess too, we'll have to implement Munis, see what that can do for us with some of these, other systems. But every day I get an email with some, ClearGov, OpenGov, DebtBook saying, hey, Old Saybrook signed up for this, Preston signed up for this. That's great. I don't know where they're getting the funds and the time to look at these softwares, but we'll get there eventually. So, audit update, 2022. We have the auditors coming back for final field work next the 20th and the 21st, and then we'll hop right into 23. And the idea is to get 24 out within the 3-month allotted window extension. So that is our grand hope. And then 25 filed for the first time since 2013 on time is our goal. So that would
be a celebration.
A dozen years to get on time. That'd be great. So that'd be huge. ARPA update. A couple meetings ago, there was a request to reach out to the subrecipients. There was about $464,000 of money that we allocated to not-for-profits or different organizations in the community. We've received about 50% of those to date. And they're still coming in. Today we received 2 more. We had a due date of February 9th, but they're still coming in, and we have the floater Sue Spang working with me on compiling all of those and getting a listing together for you guys of what's left for funding, what they spent the money on. So we are working towards that. That'll be coming next month, a final list. And we'll just note the people that didn't respond to us or have closed up shop or whatever's happened.
I think that will be, a good thing to have in the folder, because you never know when someone's going to come back and say,
Yeah.
what did you do with all this money? So.
Yep. Yeah. So
compilation.
Yeah, the big dollar disbursements. I think there was one I was waiting for that kind of hit my threshold of, okay, we're going to chase this person or this organization. So there's one I'm holding out for, but I'll refrain from public shame until next meeting. So yeah, Dan doesn't need to call in his office. They never call me. They call Dan. All right. So with regards to private duty billing, so when you see our police officers on the side of the road, we are charging $114.23. What is that comprised of? 61% of that makes up the duty rate. That is what the police officer gets paid, $70.22. So real quick, at the very top there looks to be 2 rows. The first row is quote-unquote straight time. The row beneath it is I didn't get it. I didn't ask, but I think it's like overtime, or if there's an emergency circumstance, it's 1.5 times the rate. So I think that's probably a good summary of what that is, or it might be during a holiday. But really, we focus on the top one. $70 for a duty rate. FICA is the 6.7%. The $1.65 for comp. $8.99 for the pension. So that pension number works out to 12.8% of the police wages. So the 8.99 is divided by the 70, not by the $114, right? So you'll know, because if you look at the graph I did here of what is comprised of the $114, it looks to be 8%. That's because the pension is 8% of the overall $114, but it's 12.8% of that duty rate, right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because I looked at this going, why am I not reconciling between these two? So it took me a second to figure that out. And then fuel for the vehicles. For every hour that vehicle is sitting on the side of the road, we charge $3, as well as the $25 vehicle or in this car expense. And that is what goes to fund the lease program that pays for the acquisition program for those private duty vehicles.
So, and I know Rich brought up the subject, but I also had the question of when it comes to the pension, we're not actually moving that $8.99 over to the funds that are under management in the pension.
So that $8.99 goes into the general fund, and there's a line in the general fund. I think it's called Administrative and General Police Private Duty, and that goes up to like $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. That's that $9.
Okay.
So they are paying. That this money is hitting the general fund. Mm-hmm. That pension money goes into the general fund as opposed to the.
And then basically every year the pension board is determining the actuarial determined contribution, and then the general fund is making that contribution. So.
Correct. And I've never done an analysis so that's what we're doing here. I'm asking the actuary to say, all right, are we charging enough? And I haven't heard back. He's also working on some retirees we have going on, so he's got a couple other things on his plate right now. So I imagine the next couple of days I'll have an answer here. And once I get one, I'll shoot it off to you guys so you guys can see it before March. And if it does surprise us that it is below 12.8%, I thought that was kind of a very specific number, 12.8%. So I imagine either this actuary or the past actuary has provided that number. Mm-hmm. I just wasn't able to find any source documentation for that. So if he spits out a number that's less than 12.8%, we'll keep it at 12.8%. But if it's higher, I will talk to the chief and we'll make some adjustments there. And that money will just flow into the general fund, and we can go from there.
Great.
Is there is this rate, do we negotiate this rate, or is this rate set by the state, and then we just come up with the allocations?
So I will say, I told the chief, I said I didn't need to spend a Valentine's Day with him. So I will ask this state, as far as I can tell, I don't work there, but every year we change this rate as the police officers change. So I don't think it's tied to anything. Every town charges its own rates. And the reason I'm pretty confident saying that, the fuel rate was $2 up until this year when the fuel kind of surged earlier in the year. And we changed some things around to make that rate higher for $3. Yeah, so we increased it 50%.
There should be a piece in there for your time or your staff's time that has to account for this and bill it.
I think that's that $1.65 that says comp.
Right.
That's essentially like admin time.
Okay.
So that's kind of the.
I thought that was workers' comp. So.
Yeah, I don't think I think the workers' comp's like.
Is that somewhere else?
Pennies on. No, I think it's pennies on the dollar. That comp fee is inclusive of all that. I think it's like a 2% fee or something like that. There was a formula on the back side of it. I can dig in there for you. But I agree with you. It used to be that fuel line was the admin line. So there was a 2% charge there. But with the price of fuel, right. We said, okay, we'll take that $2 admin fee. We'll change it to a fuel fee to make sure we can buy fuel.
I just want to make sure, especially now, the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of admin time for doing that. Make sure that we get compensated for that.
What I will do is I will find out what the state charges. Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot more than what we charge. So when you see the same road job we're doing, I think the state vehicle, a state trooper might be on the highway. Our guys are on this side. They might be charging you $1.60 or $1.50. I'll get you. I can find a number out for that,
Thank
and to compare us to the regional towns even.
Yeah, just to make sure we don't, getting a fair return and
Yeah.
not leaving anything on the table.
And so I'll find some comparables in the area, and I'll get back to you about the 12.8% there for that.
And so how exactly is that payment from the state for this state project that do they pay us?
So with
How
private
does that
duty
work?
billing for are you asking about the actual project or about like the police, the state troopers being there and our guys being there?
Yeah, I think I'm just, when our force goes out to like some, finite, 1 week project somewhere, I think that's different than a 3-year, 4-year project with the state versus, so I just feel like
So
this private duty is a
So-
little bit different
yeah,
than.
this is billed. We bill the contractor.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's Gino Venezzi something.
Manafort.
Manafort.
Yeah, whatever the
the
contractor,
subcontractor.
they're getting the bill. So it all goes through the general contractor on the job. So it's all through like when they're behind an EverSource truck, EverSource gets billed. When they're so it's the vendor.
Okay,
Even though if
so
it's a state project, the vendor picks up that tab, and then I'm sure it gets I'm sure there's a fee that gets slapped on top of that, and then they bill it to the state. So does that kind of answer the question?
Yes, thanks.
Any other questions regarding private duty?
Yeah, yes, there's a lot of instances where there are work projects going on various roads, be they state or town roads. And some of them, the vast majority, do have our police at the site, either front and back or one end. There are several that I've noticed don't have any of our police officers, and often there aren't signmen or signed people from the various contractors. Is there a set rule as to when our force gets pulled into action on a project?
Dan, I don't know that answer. We can get an answer for you, and we can have the chief email you an answer.
Okay, because there are some circumstances where it does seem unsafe without them. Most of the time where they're deployed, it doesn't really even seem to be a matter of safety, but just a matter of that's the way it's done. And,
Yeah, I'll reach out to Chief Finkelstein, have him
Thank
reach
you.
out to you. I'm not sure exactly how the process of if they call us to schedule. I'm not sure exactly how that
Yeah,
that
and
works.
I know over the last few weeks, there's been a lot of tree work around the lines, and
Yeah.
and quite a few times I haven't seen anyone holding up the sign. So
Yeah.
Just to speak to it a little bit, I imagine there is a standard and a protocol that the contractors must follow, given a certain type of operation, what type of police presence that is required. So my guess is that there are some overreaching regulations that they need to follow just to be safe, so they're not criticized if there is a problem or an accident, that they didn't have adequate coverage. So. But I think the chief would probably have some insight into that.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, and just some other ongoing discussions to keep everyone apprised. We're working towards a coastal resiliency fund. We put money aside from the budget. I think we have $25,000 earmarked for a coastal resiliency fund. An operating transfer out into a different fund. Excuse me. I'm working with our town attorney on establishing a grant fund, an ordinance. So when the town receives a grant, especially some of these multi-year grants, we approve it once, we put it in the grant fund, it's set it and forget it, we spend the money and we're done with it. Right now, really what happens is, if we get a grant, since we don't have a grant fund, every year we keep having to ask for an additional appropriation. So this would really streamline things and also just help, even in the financial statements, we would add a couple more work papers in the financial statements, changes in fund balance by project, and so you can tie out a fund balance of a fund to all the projects to see, okay, does this fund have unassigned fund balance? Right? Is there any money left there in the grant fund or the capital projects fund? So that's something we're working towards in the next, either the next financial statement or the one after that, because there's a couple we have to file. A capital committee, we have the finance office has an unpaid internship from Eastern Connecticut State University. That intern right now is researching a capital committee, what other towns are doing. Currently, if anyone wants to do any research on their own, the town I think I would like to mimic is Madison. I think Madison has a pretty robust capital improvement committee with the idea. I think Madison. I can't remember off the top of my head if it's all year or just budget season. But ideally, I think a capital committee should be year round because there's so much to do, so much to look at here. And so the finance intern is really compiling data for us, and then the idea would be for the finance intern to present either an ordinance or some sort of plan to the Board of Selectmen at the end of his internship, and give us a recommendation on a path forward. And with, we presented the operating budget earlier. This current year we have $18 million roughly, more than $18 million of capital project requests. We have $6 million of bond anticipation notes outstanding. If the property goes through tomorrow, that's another $2 million. So before we borrow a dollar in the fiscal year 25, we have to bond approximately $8 million. Like I said, we have $750,000 unbudgeted for cash capital. So there's a $17.5 million difference there. So that is, besides the operating budget, that capital budget, there's a $17 million, how do we go from here to here? And so that's going to have to be ironed out in the next couple months. But the idea is at least start conversations and work towards that capital committee. And then everyone's favorite, the OPEB trust. That was on the S&P rating sheet that they'd like to see established at some point. So once we get one of the top ones ticked off there, ideally the grant fund or one of those other ones, we can start working on an OPEB trust and start doing that. In the budget, I believe I put a placeholder of $10,000. Does that sound familiar? Either $10,000 or $1. There's a placeholder in the budget for it, the OPEB trust. Just to start thinking about that as well, because that's a lingering liability on our books.
Could you translate that acronym again for the audience at home? If we
Yep.
have
So OPEB stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits. So when an employee retires, it's really health insurance for our employees that have are grandfathered into that plan. A lot of people are no longer in there. So. And the liability has been decreasing over the last couple of years, but it's still in the millions of dollars. So I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, it's in the millions. So it's something we really should start. As we put money away towards the pension, we put $600,000 approximately a year into the pension. We're putting nothing into this OPEB trust. So it's time we start facing that. Questions? I thought that was quick. Oh, I thought I had it in there. I was going to say, I don't know where that went. Oh, how'd that get there? When you pay for professional photographers, I'm going to put a picture in here. I finally got him, so happy Valentine's Day, Pam. Thanks. Hey,
At least you're wearing a red tie.
It's really bad. I had a red tie in my car, and if I wore it, we would have been matching, Dan. So literally same color red. Is it a Ferragamo?
Yes,
Mr. Steele.
one question, please. You've got a start on the Coastal Resiliency Fund, and I'm glad to see that. I understand that our open space fund is pretty much drained with going for the 3 properties that we're acquiring. Do we have anything in the budget at this point to start to replenish that open space fund, or is that a consideration for the future if it isn't in this year's budget?
So I'll just speak to one part and then I'll pass over to Dan. So we're in the plan for the land acquisition. We're borrowing, or we are liquidating $200,000 from the open space fund. I think the open space fund had $229,000, so it's going to have approximately $29,000 in there. In the current budget, we did not budget for an additional. We did not budget for any more money into the open space fund. So I'll pass it over to Dan.
No, thank you. So we are using up, as Kevin said, approximately $200,000 from that to fund this deal that hopefully is going to happen tomorrow. You know, you have to prioritize, and these properties were considered so important. Getting back, you know, the 2 properties that ended up being encumbered, and the new property around Patagonic Lake, that you know, if we're going to spend that money on something, this was the property we're acquiring. The largest piece was the #1 piece on the plan of conservation development. So couldn't have been a better place to spend that $200,000. And once again, we'll have to work to start replenishing that fund. So when there's opportunities in the future, we'll be able to, you know, be in place to try to acquire worthwhile properties. But, you know, so I hope that answers your question. But the bigger picture is, you know, I hope that the message is getting across from Kevin and myself that we really take, you know, the whole idea of fiscal responsibility very seriously, and we've tried to incorporate that throughout the various aspects of the budget as we present it, and it's in the policies that we're trying to adopt as we move forward in many different areas. You know, the fire service, land acquisition, the way we're trying to make improvements anywhere we can, and being conservative about that and responsible. So let's see where this takes us over the next year and a half. So,
Okay, thank you.
of course.
Is that it for you then? Okay, good. All right, on to new business. Next item is Flanders Fire Department transfer in the sum of $40,000 from contingency to Flanders Fire to fund engine 2 and tower 100 repairs. Do you want to?
Yep, I can speak to this one. I've dealt with the 2 fire departments now over the last couple months so much. I know most of the members now, I think. So both of these vehicles, pieces of apparatus, are Flanders. It is Flanders engine 22. I know it says engine 2, but it's engine 22, and tower 100. Engine 22, while only a 2016 Spartan, needed a complete engine rehaul for the most part. I believe it was the pistons was the problem. But this is an accountant talking about a mechanical issue, so we will just try to piecemeal this together. But I know the engine wasn't working. I believe now it is back in service. So the reason why we're asking for $40,000, if you add the 2 of them up, they add about $37,000. The original quote for engine 22 was $26,000. It came in at $30,000. There was a little couple other things wrong with it. The problem with the $6,500 or so quote, $6,390 quote for a Tower 100, that's the last page there. Since this work has been sent out, the cylinder, the 6-inch cylinder on one of the back outriggers of the ladder truck, so the riggers go out and then they go down. The down part is fine, so it's able to support the ladder truck, so it's still in operation. The problem is the rigger, the hydraulic cylinder to shoot the riggers out, that's the leaky, broken one. So the outrigger is not able to go out and then down, it's able to just go down. So it still has functionality, it's still operational, but it's not running like it should, and we need to get it fixed. So the 2 of them together we're estimating to be right around $40,000. If there's overage there, I can there's some other like lines within Flanders I can have to squeeze a couple bucks out of, but these two are really unprecedented repairs. I shouldn't say unprecedented repairs. We have a brand new engine 21, I believe it is, same model as engine 22, same exact thing happened to it. The only reason we're not paying $30,000 for that one, it's under warranty. So Corvell's fixed that one as well, but they were able to work directly with the manufacturer to have all that fixed on the warranty.
So I only see one quote in here, so how does this,
So, all of
hit with
this
our
is one in
procurement?
the first 5 pages are an invoice. That's actually work done. So this work's already done. They invoiced us, and there's also a warranty that we're paying for in case this happens again. The very last page is Tower 100. So this very last page. The very last page here, everyone sees that is Tower 100. We have not got billed for that because the cylinder hasn't come in yet. So it's a quote right now, but we know it's getting done. It's already been ordered.
I guess my question is more that, given the size of this, how does this fit into our procurement policy where we normally would be
Yep.
getting 3 quotes?
I mean, I don't think there are 3 qualified vendors in the area that can do this.
So,
And that may well be.
so absolutely. So, Denise, my first question on this was, don't we have diesel mechanics at the town garage? And I said, we can tow it right down there. I mean, maybe we tow it with a backhoe or something. You have to have a special mechanic's license to touch a fire vehicle. The second, a special certification for a fire, diesel apparatus. There's one in New Haven. Corvell's is one of them, right down the road here. When this vehicle suffered its catastrophic failure, this was our, what do they call it, like front line or first vehicle out or something, whatever the lingo is, this was like the first responding vehicle. So this was kind of an urgent repair, had to get fixed. And the fact that the other one was down at the same time, Flanders had 3 vehicles that were in need of repairs at the same time, so it was an exigent circumstance. Prior to the first selectman and the finance director, we gave them the okay to get this done at the local garage. So this did supersede or
The exception in the policy, it
Correct.
met those standards, at least I believe it did. And, it's so specific and the limited expertise to make these types of repairs. And of course, Corvell's is local, I think, what they're in Montville.
Yep.
And try to transport a broken fire truck halfway across the state, now you're, other risks and other damage can happen. So it made good sense, I think, from every aspect.
Yeah, and I'm not disputing that. I
No,
just
no,
thought it
no,
would be
but
good to
it's
have
about
that
like-
discussion on the record.
Now, you could have an attorney try to explain the mechanical. It would probably be worse than, I don't know.
so. I understand the idea of a cylinder and the hydraulics there. I've worked with my dad on a backhoe before, so I get that one. But the whole inside workings of a motor, I have no idea. So it was a pretty I know it was a pretty big overhaul for a truck that wasn't that old.
I must say, though, just in commentary, it's pretty disheartening when, the money we spend on these trucks and that they break down that way, it's discouraging at some level.
Since there were 2 episodes with 2 different trucks with the same problem, that happened with our refrigerator, and there was a class action suit against the company, and we got a new refrigerator. Is there anything going on like that with
Not that I'm aware of, but, it's worth keeping an eye out, and, if there is an experience, in other municipalities and other areas across the country that are using the same engine, it could lead to that. I know that there have been those situations before with certain engines, models. So we should just kind of keep an eye open for that, but not that I'm aware of. Could be just 2 flukes, too, that we just got 2 bad ones.
Yeah, I think we're looking to anecdotally talking to some of the fire chiefs and the firemen. I don't believe the next engine we replace will be this motor. I think the chassis and cab are fine. It's the actual motor. I can't remember it wasn't a Cummins. It's something else. I can't think.
Yeah.
I think they want a Cummins, but whatever that motor is, it's the exact same motor that's in the other fire truck, and I guess it's an issue with that motor, not just these 2 particular pieces of apparatus. So it might be something coming down the pike for that motor, because a 7-year-old motor, that's just crazy.
And just as an aside, the other way of doing it, perhaps, I heard it mentioned, was, there are chassis cab, motor, chassis assemblies out there that are commonly used in the transport business and industry that aren't specific to fire trucks, that you can build. You can take that frame engine combination and then build, put a fire truck body on top of it with the apparatus, and that may be the model that starts to be followed. So, which might be more cost effective. So, and then for parts and everything else and service. So, live and learn, and as we replace other trucks, we'll just learn this lesson and see if we can find a better way. But this is what it is.
The truck has 16,000 miles on it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Just for perspective.
Yeah.
Zero. So
No, so I think you can just read it.
let's read this, or, okay. So I'll make a motion to transfer $40,000 from contingencies to Flinders Fire to fund Engine 2 and Tower 100 repairs.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 400. Next under new business is discussion and possible action on the Commission on Aging, the ARPA grant. I don't know, Kevin, are you, or Dan, or
Kristen,
Kristen?
would you like to speak?
Sure.
And if you need any backup, we got you.
Okay.
It'll be fun.
Hi, I'm Kristen Karamanica, the director of the East Lyme Senior Center. So we received an ARPA grant for a social worker, which is the majority of the money. That's about $42,483. A check-in station. So instead of doing a paper check-in for all of our programs, it would be a computer and a scanning system and some tablets. And a freezer. We need a new freezer. One of our freezers died. We had to get rid of it, so we need to replace that for our Meals on Wheels and our cafe. A dishwasher. Our dishwasher, the Board of Selectmen meeting, I think I said 10 years old, but I was corrected. I think somebody said it's like 30 years old. It's a very old dishwasher that we just keep repairing. And then also a commercial washing machine and dryer. And that's for programming as well. That's for, we have a podiatrist that comes, we have massages, and we've been personally doing the laundry. So we also are thinking, instead of having plastic tablecloths for our events, we can now purchase washable tablecloths and save the environment and ultimately save money. So that's what the grant was for.
So just a question, if we're adding staff with grant money.
So we already have Jennifer, and that money will end June 30th. So this will be for 26 more weeks. So that gives us our social worker until December of 2024.
So in the budget, the proposed budget, we have half, so it's half a full-time equivalent in this year for the social worker position, and the other half will be funded with this grant. The idea being the following year we'll take on, the full salary. Because currently it's all paid for with the town ARPA money. That'll run out June 30 this year. This senior center ARPA money will cover from July 1 to 12/31. Then the town will pick up from January 1, 25 to June 30, 25, and then, whatever happens in the next year. So our plan is to absorb the half full-time equivalent in the budget that the ARPA grant from the senior center doesn't cover.
Right. And originally Jennifer was 18 hours, and within 4 weeks we knew Jennifer needed to be 30 hours.
Just real quickly, I know I gave everyone this big grant packet. A1 is the budget breakdown that we submitted to ARPA. So just so everyone, And I would say the page number, but it doesn't have a page number at the bottom. So whatever A1 is, it's like 16, 17 pages in there.
Does say A1 at the bottom.
Yep, yep, yep. So there's the programming total cost from 10/1/23 to 9/30/24, and then 10/1/24 to 9/30/25. So you can see the compensation on the top lines, and then some of the other, material supplies, equipment, and other capital items.
Okay.
And this was the ARPA grant that was granted when Paul and I were on the ARPA subcommittee, the 58-4. Or
This is a
no
so the town received $5,463,920, I believe it was. This is separate. This is strictly for the coronavirus state recovery, specific for Department of Aging and Disability Services. So it's a very specific second tranche of cash that was targeted for
Correct.
senior centers.
And
Yeah, this is new. Yep.
Correct, correct.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep. This is an additional tranche of ARPA dollars.
Perfect.
Yes.
And then the other question,
And they would only expend, I had to expend the salaried position by December of 2024. Otherwise, I would have probably put it for the entire year, but
right.
Yeah.
And then with the creation of the Youth and Family Services Department, that was going to kind of consolidate the various social workers we have at different areas. Yours would still remain separate outside of that, or would she be?
so she does. She's also does work with families, not just seniors.
Right.
So she's both. She's the social worker.
I can speak to the budget aspect. Just I remember putting it together, 2 in the morning. But so the current social worker position that is currently at the senior center is budgeted to stay half-time, full-time equivalent at the senior center. Youth, Family, Human Services is absorbing. So they have a counselor right now under ARPA. I believe there's $32,000 set aside for 2 years worth of ARPA to cover counseling services. That is going to run out June 30th this year. We're projecting. So in the budget, there is $48,000 of counseling services separate from the social worker. One of the questions I asked, I don't know if I CC'd you on that. I asked Sarah Furman, is a counselor and a social worker the same? And I don't mean to offend anybody.
Right.
Because bean counter, I have no idea. And they're different.
Right.
One's more clinical, and I
Correct.
can't remember what the other word they use for the other one. That's, it's out of my field of expertise there. So they're not the same, because I figured, okay, well, can we take Mrs. Yu and put her over here? And the answer was no to me. So whatever happens in the budget cycle, we can talk about. But so we're budgeting $48,000 on the town for counseling services, as well as the halftime. I think it's like $32,000 I budgeted, or $32,000 to $28,000 for the halftime equivalent for the social
you.
worker.
Do you have a projection on how many hours of social work you're going to need into the future? I mean, I would think with COVID kind of dying down, you might need less, but with our aging population, you might need more.
Right. My guess is we're going to need more. She helps with energy assistance and renter's rebate, and there's so many things that go into that. By her working with those folks, she's opened up so much, helping people with food insecurities. It's just endless. And with new housing going in town, I just see the need being much, much greater.
And
And by having her too, honestly, I'm able to write some more grants. It's helpful.
And Jay, if I might add, her services, as Kristen had mentioned, aren't just elderly. There are supportive family members
Correct.
that are under a lot of stress being supportive family members. So it kind of balloons out.
I mean, she's helping with the police, protective elderly services. Just what she does every day it's just amazing, the work.
If I may, like anything else, once you start to dig into it a little bit and start to see what's really involved.
Right.
And I met with Jennifer today in my office, discussing some matters. And the need's out there, and it's pervasive. And we're providing a service, and yeah, it could be endless. I mean, the amount of the demand for services it grows, and it grows every time we put in another development and add to people living in town. We're trying to do the best we can to provide a level of service that we can afford. It's not perfect. We're getting some help from these ARPA funds, but yeah, we're going to grow the budget somewhat to hopefully keep these resources in place. But the need is real, and it's important. And by providing these services, I think it adds to the stature of our town and keeping it a good place to live, that we take care of the people that live here. So.
And people want to stay home, and she's been helping with like the Connecticut home care programs for elders to keep people home and not into nursing homes or assisted living. But she does work with nursing homes and assisted living. She works with the Department of Social Services. She just has so much information. She's been a true asset.
And since you're here and hopefully people are watching, if people need this help, where is there?
They can just call the
information
senior center.
Just-
Yep, just call the senior center.
Any further discussion?
Not sure of the wording, but I'll try my best. I move to appropriate the ARPA grant of $58,540 to the Commission on Aging for various staff and supplies, town meeting required.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of appropriating the grant, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries 400. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. On to the assessor grand list report. Yes.
That's it, yeah, here.
This is just an executive summary.
Is this
You have this executive summary.
Oh, okay.
This is the executive summary.
Okay. Okay.
So, all right. So, working with Dan Vitagliano, the town assessor, and her office, she prepared this packet for the Board of Finance members, and she gave me very detailed instructions on what to tell you guys. So, Diane, if you're sitting on a beach somewhere watching this, I hope I do good. So the net taxable grand list is $2,815,151,915. The real estate grand list increased by 1.04%. That was offset by a negative motor vehicle grand list. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but so the real estate grand list grew by over 1%. Comparison last year grew by 0.82%. So it looks like growth is accelerating, which is good. We were in having discussions with Diane. We were a little worried just with that large. If you look in your package you provided, I think it gives you a little history. The grand list reval we did in 2020-21, we grew 20%, 22%, and so we haven't had, knock on wood, we've been growing after that, which is very impressive. That's all I'll say to that. I don't want to jinx anything. So, notable changes. We had almost a $2 million property become exempt. Lighthouse Vocational Education purchased the former Brown & Brown Insurance Building. That is a not-for-profit, and it comes off the tax base. The cell tower located on that property, however, is still taxable, which is very nice. The demolition of several multi-million-dollar homes in Old Black Point has affected our tax rolls. as well as we're seeing continued new building permits for new construction, remodeling, and additions. That's accelerating our grand list growth here. As I said previously, motor vehicle grand list decreased by almost 6% as the market corrects during a post-COVID era. Supply chain issues have been resolved, eliminating the pent-up demand for those vehicles. And just a little history there, that 2021 reval, cars went up 31%. Last year, they went up almost 6% again. So for them to drop 6% is, a blip in the grand scheme of things of how much it, exponentially increased there. And then personal property grand list rose by 5.5% compared to 1.5% from last year. Other notable changes. Numerous gas stations are replacing their tanks. You've probably seen on Old Boston Post Road right next to Village Cafe over there. They swapped out the tanks over there. A lot of gas stations are being remodeled. New gas station, the Noble gas station. All these car washes are popping up. I think there's been 2 new car washes, or I think Soapy Noble's putting one in, and there was another one somewhere else. And then the staff in the assessor's office just working diligently to making sure any businesses that haven't filed are now filing, and just driving around looking at those plates. You gotta. I went into a pizza place that shall remain nameless. I saw a Jersey plate. I know the guy driving. I said, "Do you live in town?" And I said, "I'm sending the assessor after you." And so he probably charged me more for that piece of pizza. But we're gonna get his taxes. So. And I'm always looking for you, Diane. I'm helping you out there. And then equipment upgrades for numerous businesses, as they replace even street poles, right? All that is property the Eversource and everyone else kicks in for. So as everyone makes upgrades, so does the tax bill. Overall, 0.65% increase. So, while it wasn't, 1%, while it wasn't 3 digits, 2 digits of going upwards, we're happy with. And just relating this back to the tax to the budget. Sorry, guys. Taxes current year look to be up 8.8%. Bottom line, impact on a taxpayer is 8.1%. The difference there is made up of the increase in grand list growth. So for the value of 1 mil is about 2.8 million. So if we add 2.8, we're adding $6 million to this budget year over year, and that's adding more than 2 mils to the budget at the end of the day. Proposed. So, and earlier, just, we were talking about the prior year taxes down 110,000. So we don't have to talk about that. Sorry, I get distracted there, but that's kind of how it all relates. So does anyone have any questions regarding the assessor's grand list growth or grand list report?
Just to get this in the record, do I remember correctly that you did an analysis showing that for each additional apartment that's built in town, that the tax increase is less than the budget increase? Didn't I see a...
Can you say that again?
I thought I saw an analysis looking at new apartments being built in town, and that you analyzed how much the taxes increase with each new apartment and how much the budget increases by services.
That was for the
I think that was
land acquisition, right? I did
Right.
that. I can look into that for you.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see that, what those numbers look like.
Okay. I'll send you something offline. We can talk about that. I can send you my report I did for the land use acquisition.
I did see that. I guess that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I think that's where it came from, because
But
that's
there's
where I think
something in the Plan of Conservation and Development where they did a similar analysis, that they didn't report the exact numbers, but they did say that it costs more in services to the budget than is gained by tax increases.
Okay. I will look at, I think I remember what you're talking about. I think it was the land acquisition purchase.
Yeah.
And I think I worked with, I think, the planning department, some other departments to say, okay, what can we divide this by? How many, plots can we put here? And kind of to see what the impact was. Was it worth it to have, 300,000 houses on all these properties? Or, I think that was, we could talk offline about that.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Everyone said there, the grand list then. So D was the police outside service pension issue. I think you already covered that in your report, right, Kevin? Nothing more you wanted to add to that?
I've got a few emails here. I don't want to check on the TV, but I will, if I see anything from our actuary at USI, I'll send that along.
Okay.
And I'll touch base next, in March when we have that report. We can touch base then too.
Okay. Next is unfinished business, annual finance calendar. I had sent an email out to the Board of Finance and Kevin and Dan to say that we're looking at March 25th, April 1st, and April 10th to be to set aside for the departmental budget reviews. I know I know you couldn't make one day, you know, you might be able to just watch it. And you'll know which budgets that we're going to look at, so you'd be able to feed me any of your questions or what have you.
Okay.
If everybody is okay with that, we could get those posted, and I confirmed with the Board of Ed, I think they would be going on March 25th.
So BUE, March 25th.
Mm-hmm.
And then do we want to leave open 4.1 and 4.8 for other departments?
4.1 and 4.10.
Oh, 4.10.
Was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 4.10 is your normal Board of Finance meeting?
Well,
The Monday
oops,
is the
maybe
4.8.
Maybe it was 4.8. I was just looking for Board of Finance, and that came up, so let me
What was that last date?
So I have
just
the
double
email.
checking.
It was
It is
325.
4.8, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 4.1 and 4.8.
Yep, you're right.
So because 4.10 we have our normal Board of
Yes.
Finance meeting, so do you want to,
Yeah.
we could put on that agenda, you know, budget deliberations if needed,
Yeah,
like I think we normally put?
yep.
Okay, so I'll put that 4.10 normal meeting.
Was it-
4.8 and 4.
Was it
4.10
20,
won't be
25?
accessible.
Was it
Won't be
20?
March
accessible?
25th.
8? I have 25th the 1st and the 10th. Now you want to do
Remotely?
the 8th?
Yeah, so the 4.10 would be our regular meeting,
Okay,
and
I
then
can't do the 8th.
4.8 would be the budget deliberation, or, you know, review of department.
I could probably watch it, but I won't be able to make the 8th in person.
I'm not going to be able to make either one, and where I
Either one of what?
8 or 10, 4.8 or 4.10, and unfortunately I don't have very good internet access. I'll be in the heart of the Smokies.
Same with me. I won't be in the Smokies, but I won't make be able to make the 8th and 10th because I'll be on vacation. But I will have internet access.
So should we, I just hate to leave these
Well, so,
too late, because then we're running into,
so we're going to present the budget, our plans to present it to the Board of Finance on the 13th of March.
the Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen present the budget to the Board of Finance on the 13th. So, is there any appetite for the week of the 18th of March, or are we not, does that not work? Like a Thursday, because I think this room's open on Thursdays, right?
I could do that week.
Yeah, I'm okay that week.
Yeah, that
Me
week is
too.
good, because the following week you're running up against Easter and
Right.
21st, I'm not good that week, but the rest of the week I am.
The 21st of March is a Thursday. Are you good before that, you're saying, Rich?
I'm good 18th through the 20th and the
Okay,
22nd.
okay.
How about,
So maybe we
You wanna
leave
go-
Board of Ed on the 25th and then schedule a meeting on the 18th or 19th?
how about the 19th?
Okay. I will confirm with the town clerks to make sure the room's available.
first day of spring.
319,
Okay, so then 319, 325,
5:30.
and so,
April
but
1st.
are you saying April 1st is out too, or no?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
And April Fool's Day is.
So
Yeah.
19th and the 25th.
319, 325, and 4.1 for departmental budget meetings, reviews. 5:30.
Okay.
Works out fine as long
Yep.
as
Okay.
they give us any practical jokes.
Do you want me to schedule with departments like one day we do public safety, or how do we want to break that out, and when do we want to
You know what?
decide?
I think if we look at the way we did it last year,
Okay.
I think it worked out pretty well. So 325, I think the Board of Ed pretty much takes the whole thing.
So I think we needed 3 for the departments, didn't we? So I think one was public safety day, one was public works, and HR, IT, and then there was a general government one. There was 3 days when I looked at it.
Two, if I remember last year.
Because I'm just because
I think we had a
2 plus
third
Board of
day.
Ed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
okay,
2 town
I
and 1 Board of Ed.
okay,
Then there's always 410, the normal meeting, if there is something that has to
Okay.
be wrapped up.
Yep.
Right.
We're gonna catch it down.
Okay, so
So
319, 325, and 41 for departmental budget meetings. 325 will be Board of Ed, and then I can, there's sort of an obvious split with,
And
yeah.
like Public Works
One meeting will have
covers so
public
many-
safety.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll invite public works to that one, and then the other one I'll do general government and everybody else.
and
And
town,
I'll send to everybody. And
town doesn't have Easter Monday as a holiday, do they?
I don't think
I
so.
don't
I
believe
don't
so.
think so.
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay.
That's early this year, isn't it? Like the 4th or something?
I think it's the first.
Well, today's Ash Wednesday, so.
I'm not a good Catholic.
Yeah, East was
Okay.
the 31st of March.
Okay, so we good with that?
Okay.
All right.
So I'll book that and I'll send that to everybody.
Yep.
Okay. 319, 324,
Um,
41.
Public discussion, our public is all left. And board comments, anyone have anything else they want to share?
I just had one observation. This is going back to the election. I just wanted to, when we had the charter revision, there was, I think, 3 items that were voted down and had to do with the dollar value of appropriations. I know we were trying to get from $10,000, which was, I'm not sure when that was set, whether that was the 80s or the 90s, but to get it up to 100,000, I guess, based on inflation. I mean, those were voted down, which, that's fine, it's what the town wants to do, but there is a cost that's involved with that. So I don't know, maybe we could look at what is the cost of an annual or a town meeting, just so something we can keep track of, because we're gonna have a lot of these, because $10,000 comes up really quick. I know we had we were trying to do the McCook's thing, instead of, I think it was $50,000, it should have been a no-brainer just to do it right away, and we had to, come up with all these special meetings to do it, but,
It was voted down, I mean, it's by
Right.
charter.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the
We're
dollar-
not doing another charter revision.
Yeah.
anyway, so.
But just for those,
Yeah, no, I agree.
but
I think the
just-
dollar amount scared people.
Hmm,
$100,000 versus 10,000, like 10x.
yeah. I think it hadn't been done in a while, but,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
think the
it's-
original one, I was on the Charter Revision Committee,
Mm.
and my recollection is that the original $10,000 was in the 1970s, the early
Yeah.
70s, and somebody looked at inflation since then
mhm,
and said that 10,000 was equivalent to like 90,000
Yeah.
now. So that's where that 100,000 came from. The other thing is that I believe it costs somewhere, I think around $1,000
okay,
or
I mean-
in that range for a town meeting.
yeah.
It might be a little more than that, depending on the cost of advertising in the newspaper, because you have
Mhm.
to, by law, you have to
Right.
place ads. But we did look at that, and I thought it was a lot of money to me, but the other people on the committee didn't feel it was
Yeah.
that significant.
No, fine, that's the way that the voters wanted it, but, I mean, you watch a town meeting, you don't see 3,000 people there coming to place there.
Well,
But it's, but just, I know, well, just remind everybody, there's a cost involved with that.
that's true.
Yep. Yeah.
Every referendum is over $10,000
Yeah,
between staffing and everything involved. It's over 10,000. So every time this past year, the registrar's budget is facing some stress because we added the land acquisition, right? That was an additional referendum. The town meeting adjourned to that referendum, that was $10,000. That wasn't in the budget. So, and we're, we budget for one budget referendum. Second one's did another 10,000. So, we bare bones it, so.
It's just my soapbox moment.
Well, good points, Paul. To that point, I know in the motion that I had put forward for the ARPA grant that required a town meeting because it was over the 10,000 limit. The fire truck, I didn't note on that motion that it required a town meeting, and that's 40,000. Is there?
That requires a town meeting.
Okay,
I thought-
it just wasn't noted in the agenda.
Do we need to
Okay.
read?
Okay, and then
We need to read.
one last observation is a couple of meetings ago, I thought we were moving electronically instead of all the paper.
So
know
I will fall on
you
the sword
guys
here,
have your
Rich.
crunch there, and that you're filling another department as well.
So that was part of it, but I'll fall on the sword here. I thought I had everything done before I went on my 3-day vacation to Jamaica, and I'm boarding the plane, and it just hits me. I didn't do the Board of Finance agenda, and because I ran out of here, the Board of Selectmen meeting, went right to the airport, and as I get there, I go, okay, I know I'm missing something, and what I was missing was the call to Denise to schedule our Board of Finance. So while I was sitting in the pool, I was working with my Deputy Finance Director and sending emails between Denise and Mitch, and trying to get this agenda together on my little cell phone. So I apologize for that. The idea was fully electronic. It was just an oversight on my part. I thought I hit all my to-do list items.
No worries. And then you were talking about a shared drive or such for having everything stored in.
So Mr. Maxfield, before the meeting, was talking to me about zoning. I'm going to check with zoning. It sounds like zoning has some sort of, I don't know if it's a portal or just like
No,
a web,
it's
like a separate page
Yes,
to upload
no,
budget
yeah,
documents.
Separate page when you go to their webpage on the town website for meetings. It has agendas, minutes, and then there's materials. I think planning has the same thing because they get so much volume for each of their meetings. I think that's where
like this.
But still, it would be in the architecture of
it would be on the
Online.
town website. Yeah.
our town.
I don't know if it's accessible to everybody because I don't see anything in there. But I see
There
what
may
we're,
not be anything there for this year, but if you go to
Yep.
last year, you'll see.
I see what the right here. This agendas, minutes, materials. I see that. Yep, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Because then your emails would not be big bulky thing, and it'd help the town out a lot besides helping us.
So I'll probably going forward. I'm going to contact IT tomorrow to do the exact same thing here. So what I'll do is I will probably send an email with the agenda and a link to this with all the attachments, if that works for everyone.
Yeah, other than the budget items, I think it shouldn't be as much as, I'm sure the zoning ones are huge.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here with this thing, but
Yeah, they got a lot of legalese stuff.
Could I make a comment since we're doing soapboxes? Based on the results of the town referendum on buying these properties, the open space properties, I think the town is very supportive of open land or the people that live in the town are very supportive of the town spending money to buy property. So I understand the restrictions this year in the budget as far as the open space fund goes, but I think we should consider that a priority in the future. I think there are occasions where properties come up for sale and there's a competition among developers to buy that property, and if the town had the money and could quickly negotiate a deal, we would be able to purchase some of these pieces of property more easily. So, that's something I'd like to see.
So noted.
Anything else?
Can I just say one thing about the
Sure.
property? So the town, we're using 200,000 from the open space, but really, the general fund is floating approximately, 1.8 million until we, that fund balance, this is why fund balance is so important. The fund balance, essentially, we're borrowing money from that fund balance to cover this $2 million until we pay ourselves back in August and we bond the money. So that 200,000 definitely helped out. But
I mean,
ultimately,
I don't object to spending it, I just think that we need to replenish it.
Do our best. Yeah, no, I mean, it's an important priority, and I share it, and so many realities we're trying to deal with, but it certainly is important, so we're in position when opportunities arrive. I agree.
Anyone else? If not,
Move we adjourn?
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.